Kashmi, I think we are good to go.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I am Kashvi Desai, the documentation head of DIRS this year. I wholeheartedly welcome you all for the Gandhi lecture today. The Gandhi lecture has been an annual event conducted by the DIRS where Gandhian themes are both studied and celebrated. I am sure that the timeless morals that shall be shared by today's speaker, Professor Aravind Ganachari, will be held closely by all of us. I would like to first start by giving all of you a brief on DIRS. The Department of Interreligious Studies at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai was started to foster religious studies to complement academic education. However, today it has become a student-friendly, student-fueled initiative that actively involves college students in interreligious dialogue, activities, and thinking. Some of the annual traditions stemming from DARS have left a lasting impression on students. One such clinical annual event is the DIRS International Symposium on Rejuvenation, which brings together esteemed panelists and speakers from a wide array of disciplines to foster intense deliberation on the pressing matters of the world. This year, with the DRS theme being rejuvenation, these speakers will uncover what it truly takes to rejuvenate in the chaotic and stressful lives we live nowadays. I hope all of you all can see my screen.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So I would like to take this momentous occasion to humbly welcome you all to our international symposium for some thought-provoking discussions that are guaranteed to leave you with much food for thought. To those interested, we will share the details of registrations soon. With this, I would like to call upon Sanjana Menon, today's comptroller, to take the proceedings of this auspicious lecture forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashvi. Distinguished speaker for the day, Dr. Aravind Ganachari, respected moderator, Father Arun D'Souza, Father Keith D'Souza, Professor Radha Ma'am, and to all the participants present, a very good evening. Today, as we have gathered here to attend this enlightening session on Mahatma Gandhi and human emancipation, we have a very eminent speaker who will carry us all forward through his words to wisdom. As Kashvi mentioned, the Gandhi Lecture is an awakening session conducted by the Department of Interreligious Studies every year to spread knowledge and to further meaningful dialogue regarding Gandhian studies and impact. Without further ado, let me introduce our speaker and moderator of the day. We have with us Dr. Aravind Ganachari, former professor and head, Department of History, University of Mumbai. Dr. Aravind Ganachari ji has been in this profession for 42 years and got many accolades to his name with his publishings in over 30 journals, multiple articles in newspapers, most notably his work in Lok Satta and 5 books that he has authored. Dr. Ganachari is a man with immense knowledge. His experience as an advisory member on various boards, such as the Indian Historical Review ICHR New Delhi, Sambhashan, Journal of University of Mumbai, and having delivered multiple guest lectures, makes it our great honor to have him as a speaker for the session today. We also have Father Arun D'Souza, Head Public Policy Department, Director, Heras Institute, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, as our moderator today. I request Father Arun D'Souza to formally introduce our speaker. Father, please.
Welcome, Professor Ganachari, to this talk. I think Sanjana has already mentioned exactly in terms of your academic credentials. What I'd like to add really as a human person, you really stand by Gandhian values and live them out in your life. Every time I encounter you, I come back rejuvenated, feeling much better, and you touch our lives in different ways. And I think today talking on Gandhi is something very important because just, a few days back, we celebrated Republic Day. And on that occasion, I quoted Gandhi, one of his interviews to Young India, the magazine. He mentioned that Ram Rajya really is democracy where the least and the last are able to get justice for themselves. And he goes on to say, even the dog that visited Ram at Ayodhya got justice. And what a beautiful way I think Gandhi puts it for our world today. In other words, Ram Rajya is something which is ecologically sound. It is something that includes the whole cosmos, includes every human being, especially the least and the lost. So looking forward really to an enlightening session with you. Just for the rest of the group here, what we shall do is we'll hear Professor Ganachari for 40 minutes. I shall give him a gentle warning at that point. Then we will wrap it up at 45 minutes, giving each of you time for about 20 minutes to ask him questions. I'm sure all of you are enthusiastic to ask a lot of questions. So over to you, Professor Ganachari. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Esteemed Father Arun, Father Keith, Professor Radha Kumar, Professor Arun, and my dear friends. It's indeed my pleasure to talk on a subject like Mahatma Gandhi, on whose I have spent many years of studying, and I am yet studying it. When I started, when I introduced a paper on Gandhi in Mumbai University, and while doing that, I asked my question to myself. Gandhi came to India permanently early 1914 from South Africa at the instance of Gopal Krishna Gokhale. From early 14 to the day he was assassinated in 1948, more than 35 years, this man was an undisputed leader of India. It's no joke. The British were always foxed by his thoughts, actions, and many times British administrators claimed, from the rooftop that Gandhi was finished, Gandhi is no more the leader, and so on. And every time he rose like a phoenix. So if we want to study Gandhi, it is not just that he's fought for India's independence, but he was more interested in emancipating man from all oppression and all exploitation, be it racial, be it colonial, be it social, of any kind of oppression. And he fought against that. And that's why I chose this topic, that we should not limit it only by making him a national leader. He was basically a world figure, a world inspirer. No wonder Einstein said, future generations will scarce believe that such a man in flesh and blood walked upon this earth. And Noel Baker, who was British representative in the United States, said after his assassination, he is the leader of the poorest, the loneliest, and the lost. And this man is it was not just was fighting against the British rule, but at the same time had to fight against Indian orthodoxy. So he was not just an activist, a philosopher, an activist, a freedom fighter, and who stood for the emancipation of all human beings all over the world. I find from 1914 onwards, I would like to first compare him with a few things with him. There was a moderate phase, then the extremist phase, and then the Gandhian phase. Gandhi put it, he's in his phase, ups and down. He came to India as a supporter of the British efforts in World War I. But Gandhi constantly changed himself. He was always ever changing, ever evolving. From a person who had supported British World War efforts in 1914 and 15, to the time that he comes in Quit India movement, He led all kind. He is always constantly changing. Gandhi is philosophically never static. He's changing. He's a changing man, and no wonder he named his autobiography "Experiments with Truth." And he was always experimenting and always changing. Few people in history have been so much changing, which kept him very relevant as a national leader for 35 long years. When he came to India, you see, the national leadership was basically an urban leadership in Congress. It was the moderates and extremists, but that it was confined to Bombay, Pune, Calcutta, Madras, Allahabad. These were the urban centers, and where most of the people used to meet for 3 days in a year, for a Congress session, and that's how the British used to set the agenda, in the sense, whenever they use law as an instrument of coercion, where Tilak had to go through a number of cases. Tilak went through in 1881, 1897, 1901, 1906, 7. He was sent to Mandalay. In 1916, there was another case of sedition against him. So they brought everyone in the name of rule of law, which was a hoax, and they made the charges, and the onus of proving whether they were that they were innocent was on the national leaders. This was the method that was going on, where we say from urban leadership, Gandhi was the first person began with the rural following. His very first agitation, Champaran, he comes from the most backward area of Bihar. He goes to Bihar, Champaran. For 8 days, he sits, does not speak to them, because the plantation workers of Champaran felt that he had come to lecture them. No, he said, no, I have not come to lecture you. I have not come to tell you what you should do. I have come to listen to your stories. For the first time, people felt that somebody has come to hear their stories. And from there, the second agitation, when he started, was in Kheda. Again, another backward area of say, Gujarat, for no tax campaign. Now here, what is most important is he begins his leadership not from the Congress platform, but he carves out his own constituency, he carves out his own followers, and it is from the rural areas he comes up with his own leadership. So he has not come up as a Congress party leader, as a leadership from any urban area. And then from there, he has the third satyagraha. These are individual satyagrahas. The third against Amritsar massacre. He had the Rollout Satyagraha, which he carried out from the place Mani Bhavan stands today as a place of his abode for some time, and from where he started the Rollout Satyagraha. Then he starts another one, not against the British. He starts again against another exploiter of our own, the Ahmedabad mill workers, cause he takes. Now the British are foxed. British they don't realize, whether he's against the British rule or he's against, and he goes from one step at a time, that he succeeds and goes to the next. After Ahmedabad, he starts non-cooperation. Now it is not just against for a cause, whether it is plantation workers in Champaran or the peasants of Kheda. or the patedars of against the Saraway mill, against the exploitation in Saraway mills. But now he takes up a cause for not just Amritsar massacre, but the cause of non-cooperation. We are not going to cooperate with the evil laws. It is one step ahead. And then he calls up that non-cooperation on his own. The British are always foxed. They thought that once Chauri Chaura incident took place, he would not call it off, but he calls it off. He condemns violence. This is what exactly foxes the British leadership, British administrators. Because earlier what they did was they charged Kirk for committing sedition, and then the onus of proving that he had not committed sedition was on Kirk. Now here Gandhi first condemns violence. They never expected that he would call off non-cooperation movement after Chauri Chaura incident. They were themselves, and after that, Willingdon writes in his report, I'm going to call him a hoax, but at the moment I am able to save my own position. So if you see the writings of the administrators, they are confused with the leadership, the kind of causes that he is taking up. And then he does not go against the British, but he goes against the temple entry at Wycombe, against a different cause. So here it is an experiment. Every experiment he carries, he succeeds, goes one step ahead. Then he comes with another. Now so non-cooperation, when he started, he said we will not cooperate with the evil civil laws, not criminal. And he gave, when Rabindranath Tagore talked about his program, then he gave a constructive program. It is not just non-cooperation. He gave a constructive program. So here is a one step ahead. Every time he goes one step ahead. And then after Simon Commission agitation, he goes another. Then for a lull for some time, they say Gandhi is finished. But he comes up again after Simon Commission. He comes with civil disobedience. We will not only not cooperate with the evil laws, but we will go against the evil. We will disobey the evil laws, civil laws. And that's where Salt Satyagraha and other civil disobedience movement comes. Here is another step. And another thing is, when 1921, he writes an article, Disloyalty and Duty. Section 124A, what was called sedition law, section of sedition, was any person who brings lawfully constituted government under disrepute, distemper, disloyalty, disaffection against lawfully constituted government, either by words spoken or written. See, this was what was sedition. He says very plainly and simple, this government is not attracting the affection of the people, and therefore spreading disaffection against this government is my duty. For saying that, they charged him on question of sedition. He said, I am guilty. His strategy was very different. He said, I am guilty. Because he had known what had happened to Tilak. But Tilak in 1907, he wrote the articles which were written because of the kind of repressive measures that British government was carrying on. Tilak was only forewarning the government that if you carry on this kind of repressive measures, the reaction would be of a revolutionary type, it would be different. He was not defending revolutionaries. He was only forewarning. But that forewarning was treated as is a complicity with revolutionary cause. So Gandhi does not do that. Gandhi first condemns violence. And then he says, this is because of you people and your laws. Your laws are evil. Your system is evil. And we are not going to cooperate. And when the judge asked him, said that I am giving you the same, he said, Mr. Judge, mind you, he was a barrister. He knew how to address the judge, but he never called the judge as my lord. He said, Mr. Judge, if since you are called upon to administer the evil law of the state, if you think that the laws you are called upon to administer are evil, you will have to set me free and resign your job. But I know that you are not going to do it. So give me maximum punishment. Shankarlal Banker, his publisher, also said, give me maximum punishment. They gave him imprisonment and transportation like Tilak. He rose again. After judge's judgment, nobody is given anybody to make a statement after the judgment. But what could the judge do? Hayward. He said, by associating my name with Lokmanya Tilak, I feel privileged. And he sat down. Here was something different way of approaching, because he was setting the agenda. He started from where to start the agitation. He called off the agitation. He would restart it again. And it is one step at a time. In 1929, he goes to civil disobedience. We will not only not cooperate with the civil laws, but we will disobey the civil laws, oppressive civil laws. And then he goes at the 1942 that this state is evil. It has to go out. And he is always changing. He is always evolving. And he is a fast learner. He first supports the British in the First World War. And the Britishers go back on their word. And then he realized how he was. Every imprisonment he considered it as a quiet place to rethink himself. And once he knew that he cannot believe in the word given by the British, he never committed a mistake again. In Second World War, he first asked all the 11 ministries to dissolve, to resign. So Gandhi was one who associated, not only strategy was to fox the government, and the government could never anticipate it. Gandhi set the agenda. He made the British work in that agenda. He would decide what the agenda was. He would decide the place it would carry. He would decide when to call off that agitation. The British could never anticipate it. And he kept foxing the government right from 1917 from Champaran till 1942, and from where they had to go until we got our independence. What is the greatest contribution in this? I've talked much about it. I'm telling you this strategy in a very short manner. But what was the greatest thing? Among the moderates, when Ranade and others were fighting, it was only few elite who were fighting. That base was widened by the extremist. And furthermore, Gandhi widened the base of mass participation. The greatest contribution of Gandhi to Indian thought and the Gandhian national movement was he removed the fear of the terror of law. What Tilak asked the question earlier, when he was sent to Mandalay, they said, he raised the question, am I committing Rajadroha or is state committing Deshadroha? Gandhi asked a very different question. Is the evil law of the state higher or is the law of my moral conscience higher? I will go by my moral conscience. And that's exactly, he brought the most important aspect of Indian life, changed, brought mass participation. Never ever British had thought that people would participate in such a manner in non-cooperation movement. He told the people, do not trouble the prisoner. Please treat the prisons as His Majesty's hotels. What he did was remove the fear of the terror of law. And that terror of law was the biggest pillar of British imperialism. When the first thing, that fear was lost, everybody thought that going to the prison was something like going for a picnic. They lost the fear. And people came, ignorant people, mind you, ignorant people, to bring them together, to put them in mass movement was the biggest achievement neither people had ever thought of, nor the British had ever thought of. And it kept on increasing. And the way people went to the jails, the way they fought, their commitment, their sufferings, this is where it was Gandhi brought the pillar of British imperialism down. And he removed that fear of colonial, terror of law. What the Britishers did was they brought an evil, law was used as an instrument of coercion, and he removed that fear. Mind you, there was a strategist he was just not a moral or philosopher. He was also a practical activist. He changed his dress. If you want to lead the people, you must know the people. Therefore, the first thing with Gokhale told him that you move all around the country. So he spent the entire 1915 moving all around the country. Fortunately, Gokhale died in early 15. And so Gandhi changes his dress. You see, the British and historians as well as British administrators use different terms if you see the archival records. They said the difference between moderates and extremists. The moderates were the one who used constitutional means. Tilak said another thing. Tilak said it was working with within the constitution provided by the colonial state. Did that mean that extremists were using unconstitutional means? No, they were morally and legally right. Boycott was morally and legally right. Nobody can force anybody to use certain goods, but they use these terminologies. Gandhi, in his life, did not contest any election and work in any elections that neither 19 diarchy nor in 1935, he did not contest any election at all. But he mass mobilized the people. He changed his dress. He brought this racial, and he made them conscious. He was conscious of bringing it to their notice. He goes to England, does not stays in the slums of London, and tells the Queen that I not only represent my people, but I represent your slums. He tells suddenly in the middle of the meeting with Viceroy, he would just take out his watch and say, it's my time to have a go have a walk for the good. He would make the British, these administrators wait. In the in roundtable conferences, many people spoke against him, kept quiet. Say, why did you keep quiet? He said, my day, today is my Mount day. When I keep quiet, I can have the pleasure of listening to others, what they want to say about myself. Gandhi used everything. You see, he was calculative. He used charka as a self-reliance. It was by design he did it. It was by design he used his dress. It was designed by used his Indian, maybe say, traditional icons, symbols. And he brought all that racial arrogance of the West. I also would like to tell you that sometimes people ask that the British were the one who made him a Mahatma. Some of the historians have written like this, that it is the British. Had it been Hitler, he would have treated them differently. No, my dear friends. After he went to Roundtable Conference, at Roundtable Conference, Charlie Chaplin came to meet him. On 22nd September 1931, Charlie Chaplin personally came to meet from America to London, stayed with Churchill's place and met him. He asked, Mr. Chaplin, what do you want to ask me? He said, you have written Hind Swaraj. You have made an indictment of modern civilization. Why are you against modern civilization? Gandhi said, no, sir, Mr. Chaplin. I'm not against human progress. If it is scientific, any kind of development, I'm not against human progress. But by holding that kind of technological progress, if they are, because of that technological progress, if they want to reduce my people to slavery by being advanced country, I'm against that kind of civilization which treats my people as slavery, reduces them to slavery. Chaplin was so impressed by this argument. He has mentioned this in his autobiography. And then he comes out with his modern times picture movie. Then he comes with another one, The Dictator. Exploitation of in modern civilization. We say in the name of modernity, in the name of modern civilization, the kind of technological exploitation that takes place. That's exactly why it cannot be used as a tool of imperialism. That is what he said. Gandhi, on his way back from Roundtable Conference, he met Romarola at Paris. Then he came to Rome. Few English historians have written on this visit to Rome, except one. He was not an Englishman. He was an American newspaper man, William Shirer. Shirer covered the Chicago Tribune from right through the Roundtable Conference, and he was with him right up to Salt Satyagraha. And from there he went to Germany, and thereafter he wrote Rise and Fall, Third Reich, William Shirer. William Shirer was with him when he visited Rome. Pope did not want to meet him because he spoke against revelation. He said, I don't believe in revelation because that means why should God reveal to few people? Has God some of his favorites? But then he said, no problem. He went with William Shirer to St. Peter's Basilica. He saw the statue of Sister Anne Pieta. removed his shoes, his sandals, which he used to stitch himself at the corner, kept it at the corner, we say outside the church, and went and sat before that statue and profusely cried. And from there, this is what Shirer has written. And he then calls Shirer. He said, Bill, come here. This is the first satyagrahi of the world. He points out at Christ, and he says, this is the first satyagrahi of the world. This was what Gandhi was. From there, the meeting was arranged, and this meeting, none of these British historians or everybody biographers have written about it. He is meeting with Alduce, Benito Mussolini. He meets Mussolini in his chamber. After 5 minutes, he tells him, Mr. Alduce, we have exchanged the pleasantries. We have nothing in common. And he then says, you go your way, I go my way. And he just walked out. Mussolini for a moment did not realize what was happening in his chamber. He couldn't do anything. And that's why some of these people who argue that if had the Hitler been there, no, not at all. When the Dictator movie came, Hitler bought a copy of it himself and used to screen it for himself and enjoyed. So this is an impact. It is not just about national movement, but it is human dignity that he brought about. It is the dignity of, we say, racial. He was against racial arrogance. He was against white man's arrogance. He showed to the British that even in London there are slums, and I'm their leader. He used his Indian clothes when the Queen, this Elizabeth, they say earlier, the old mother, when she said, she was the one who said, there have been raving reports about the naked fakir. He said, yes, at least I have this much of cloth on me. My people do not have even this much under your majesty's benevolent government. He had the guts to tell the royal queen on her face in London, in her Buckingham Palace. That's where Gandhi was fearless, not in his own action. He made people fearless. And fearlessness is the quality of what he talked about, Satya. Satya was not veracity or just a veracity. If said, or truthfulness. Fear, they say Satya means real, sincere, existent, pure, good, effectual, valid, and it had some properties. And that property of Satya were fearlessness. It was beyond being time and space, and fearlessness in truth, in thought, speech, and action. It is silence. Sometimes silence also becomes cowardice. To not only to speak untruth, but holding back truth also is a cowardice. And these are the qualities that he talked. He also said, I object not to harsh truth, but I object to spiced truth. Sometimes spiced truth. This is what he taught. And then he equated God with truth first. In 1926, he changed it. If God is truth, means before truth there is God. And he felt it problematic. And then he reversed it and he said it is interchangeable. God is truth and truth is God. And that's what it remained throughout he reversed his position and said, truth is God, regarded as one of these most important discoveries, and he always maintained it throughout his life. By saying that, he said he reversed the position. He his concept of truth was prior to that of God. So he raised truth to the level of divinity. And he felt that it should be both. Gandhi had tremendous influence of number of people. Apart from Hinduism, apart from Jainism, Anekantavad, say truth is multi-spiced. There is different way of looking at different angles. Anekantavad of what Jains talk. There is Buddhist equity and compassion that Buddhism talks about. Christianity that, Tolstoy's biggest Sermon on the Mount that he stood for, Gandhi always stood for on Sermon on the Mount. The forgiveness, the love and compassion that Christianity brings, and the sufferings that the Christians undergo. This is what all this they had impact on his life. He received from Islam the kind of equal, and there is no mediator between that. Maulana Shibli's biography of the Prophet he read. He has mentioned that. He has also read Amir Ali's The Spirit of Islam. He had Jew friends, Henry Kallenbach and others. He had C.F. Andrews, Reverend C.F. Andrews, a great friend of his and a great Gandhian. So many influences had, but this was what he always believed, is that they say the most important thing for him in religion was he found his mind was most eclectic. He saw in each religion a good part. Not that he in some ways goes parallel to Rajaram Mohan Roy, who in 1804, when he wrote Tuftul Muawadin, he said, falsehood is common to all religions without distinction. But he saw the positive, Gandhi saw the positive aspect of religion. And though there are falsehood in every of the contains falsehood, most of them, but he saw the best of it, of every religion. And his main emphasis was for Gandhi. Gandhi never had concerns with theology. But morality was the core of his religion. He felt that religion was solely concerned with how one lived, not how one believed. So for him, theology was not at all important. Even you can always say, when somebody asked him, he has written a wonderful, about 242 pages on a discourse on Gita. Somebody asked him, you believe in this kind of fight between Kauravas and Pandavas? He said, before I answer you, you please tell me, after the Kaurava and war between Kauravas and Pandavas, did truth win? Nobody could answer. He said, for me, Kurukshetra is in the heart. We are always constantly at war with ourselves. And that Kurukshetra goes on perennially, which is fight in our own mind between good and evil. And he always felt good will finally win. Sometimes it appears evil to win, but evil does not win. It is only transient feature. It appears to be winning. It is like sun covered by the clouds. Once the cloud cover is gone, we say dark clouds are gone, sun shines again. And that is why evil is always transient, not truth. And this is what he emphasized. You will never find Gandhi visiting any temple. For him, it was prayer. Prayer was to chasten your own heart. Because every person must have the qualities of head and heart. He appealed, and prayer was it is for that reason. You will never, only once he, because of Rajaji, he went to a temple and they carried him to the mountaintop in a chair. He says it is far too, a mortal like me cannot go there. So that was the only time he went to the temple. You will never find Gandhi going to any temple, but he was a devout Hindu. And this is what people must understand, that it is truth. For him, there is theology. One should not get into theology. One should not manusmriti, not anything, but it should be, morality should be core. It should be core. And that, sometimes we say person should be tolerant. He opposed the word toleration. When he said, people say tolerant, that means I do not want to tolerate it, even I do not like it, but still I tolerate it. And that is why he did not use the word tolerance. You see, tolerance. He said sadbhavana. It is sadbhavana is good bhavana, good emotions towards all religions. And he placed individual at the center of religious search, liberated religion from the stranglehold of traditionalism. It is, at one time he writes in Navjivan, he said, it is easy to swim in tradition. It is easy to swim in tradition. But to sink in tradition is a suicide. He did not want people to sink themselves in tradition. This only today we realize how relevant it is. How relevant it is. It is, and he said it is good to swim in the water of tradition, but to sink in them is a suicide. Gandhi wrote on October 22nd, 1925, in volume number 30 of his collected volumes, I read, he writes, there are 7 social sins if there has to be a very just and civil society. He said there are 7 social sins, whether it is politics. People say in politics, everything is fair. No. For him, he said, which are those 7 social sins? First, politics without principles is a sin. Second, wealth without work. Third, pleasure without conscience. Fourth, knowledge without character. Fifth, commerce without morality. Sixth, science without humanity. People might arrogate to themselves that we produce hydrogen bombs and bombs that will destroy the human existence in this world if it is for the welfare of the society. And that's exactly, and seventh, he said, worship without sacrifice. Worship without sacrifice. Prayers are only for asking for favors from God. No, prayers must clear our own conscience, not for asking God for any favors.
Professor Ganachari, I'm going to commit a sin and interrupt you.
No.
5 minutes more.
I'm concluding.
Sorry for the sin.
Yeah. But these 7 social sins are so vital today, even people to remember, even to today's society, today's politics. And I would like to say this is, when he was assassinated, 3,441 messages were received. 3,441 messages were received from all parts of the world except one, Soviet Union. And the French socialist Leon Bloom said, I never saw Mahatma Gandhi. I don't know his language, but I felt orphaned. He was, Noel Baker called him the friend of the poorest, the loneliest, and the lost. He says Gandhi's greatest achievement are still to come. Yeah, and I very much think that Gandhi is relevant even today. Today, he is one of the most criticized persons. And the fact that people think of criticizing him also shows how relevant it is. How relevant, and no wonder Einstein, what he said, future generations will scarce believe that such a person walked upon this earth. Gandhi was not a we did not view a magic wand. No, he had no answers to everything. He had his own fancies, some of the fancies like brahmacharya, naturopathy, but he was a human being. He committed suicide, he committed mistakes, but he never repeated any mistake. That is the biggest achievement. He says, every time one must commit a new mistake. And today, if anybody is most relevant today, it is these social sins that we must talk about. It is, if we are to have a just civil society, a very honorable civil society, you call it by any name, Ram Rajya or any name. If we are to have that, then man must avoid these 7 social sins. If we don't talk about human emancipation, Gandhi was irrelevant when Gandhi was not irrelevant when we achieved independence. No, he was against exploitation at any place. Whether it is in America, Martin Luther King, or whether it is Nelson Mandela fighting racial inequality and apartheidism, Gandhi was most relevant even today. That man in Tiananmen Square, where in front of all those tanks, when he stood alone, he was the Gandhi, living Gandhi that day. And he is even today, whether the farmers' agitation or anything. I think we are in the name of liberty, in the name of nation first, we are forgetting human existence. And Gandhi stood for human emancipation. It is against all exploitation, whether it is within ourselves, whether in our own society. He was any kind of oppression. Gandhi was the man who brought women into national mainstream. He, therefore, today can be placed with some, in my opinion, along with Christ, along with Gautam Buddha, along with Mahavir, along with the Master. Gandhi stands even today in the same galaxy of all these great persons who were beacon lights and showed light to the people. Thank you very much, dear friends. And I would love to answer your questions.
Thank you, Professor Ganachari. Truly an intellectual feast and really, really inspiring. Just to sum up, I think the main points that I take away from this entire presentation of yours, I think what you centrally highlighted, and which, I think it opened my own mind, we sometimes think of Gandhi in a very narrow way as somebody who fought for freedom from the British. What you have opened up is a huge vista that says, no, he actually fought for the emancipation of people from all kinds of oppression, and therefore he is a global figure, and therefore he is relevant for today. The second thing that I think you very, strongly underlined is how Gandhi was an evolving person. In other words, we think of Gandhi, in a kind of very static way, satyagraha, etc., as if these were truths that are eternal. But what you pointed out so beautifully in your presentation, how he moves from being a moderate to an extremist to a Gandhian phase. And each time he's experimenting and learning anew. And how does he learn? By going to the people, and especially the least and the lost. So he goes to rural areas, he goes to slums. So all his thinking is an experiment with the poor, with the marginalized, with the lost. The other thing that I found very interesting is your highlighting of his Roman visit. As you rightly point out, most scholars don't speak too much about Roman visit, but you highlight it in two little ways which are very important. One, in sitting in front of this Pieta and crying and calling Jesus the first Satyagrahi, and two, walking out of Mussolini's room. Through both these incidents, again, you point out how Gandhi was larger than Indian independence. He is actually somebody who works for this world emancipation. The other thing that you also highlighted is this whole sense of truth as God and God as truth. In other words, truth is not something that exists in a kind of very abstract manner. Truth is our moral life, our actions, and you therefore differentiated it from theology, which according to you is beliefs and dogmas and etc., which then create problems in our life. And the last thing that I think you pointed out so well is the 7 social sins, and you pointed out that each one of them is as relevant today as at the time that Gandhi spoke about. So really, Professor Ganachari, you have covered such a wide spectrum of thought. I'm sure it has blown our mind away. And I'm sure that our students and everyone here have a lot of questions to either ask you or to take back home. So I now invite each one of you to, either use the reaction screen here and put up your hand, or physically to put up your hand and make a point. So welcome. The floor is open for any question.
I would love to have questions. Yeah.
With your permission.
Professor Kuljit, yes, Professor Kuljit,
yeah.
please.
Yes.
No,
Sir, yeah.
Professor Ganachari, I have one small request.
Yes, sir.
What is your guidance to society today as it exists in our country? Bearing in mind all that you just said, Gandhi is so much reviled today. So what is your advice to society, how we should deal with the kind of situation that prevails? If I'm not touching a very sensitive subject, please. I know it's sensitive, but in whatever best way you would like to respond, I would be grateful for your views. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel, I feel today there is a deep degeneration, academic life, intellectual life, moral life, and Gandhi had written one very beautiful article called The Bankruptcy of Morality. And if this is towards moral bankruptcy, and if I am to say that what we suffer from is moral bankruptcy, they say today the British used, I wrote a paper, and it is published in a volume in Canada called Combating Terror of Law, and that's where my first idea of how he was combating terror of law. And sometimes and that is one paper which is read today by many people. I get it. I get to know. I do get the information from academic education, and that this has been referred. But today, that is exactly what it is. What is moral bankruptcy, and that's where today we consider that in politics, in the name of nation first, individual is just forgotten. Gandhi never fought individual. His center of everything was individual. When he said, and that's exactly, it is the welfare of the not the first, but it is welfare of the last. He wanted everyone's welfare. And that is exactly what we are, we say, steamrolling everything in the name of nation first. Because these ideas in French Revolution, in the name of equality and liberty, in the name of liberty, Mirabeau and others carried Robespierre carried reign of terror. In Soviet Union, in Stalin and everyone, in the name of equality, they massacred liberty. Gandhi lived both for liberty of individual. It is society is made up of individuals, and therefore the welfare of individual is the welfare of society, not the other way. That welfare of society means social welfare means individual welfare. No, not at all. So individual was at the core of his religion. That's why he worshipped the individual. That's why he wanted every individual to be, and mind you, he was leading the people when ignorance, poverty were rampant. To will these poor, ignorant people, bring them in, make a moral force that removed that fear of terror of law. That law was used as an instrument. I did not dilate upon it today. Every newspaper shows you what it is. So Gandhi becomes, say, when we undermine morality, whether these politics without principles or education without character or commerce without, say, morality or science without humanity, I think there is a tremendous slide down, not just in India, but all over the world. And Gandhi becomes most relevant today, not just in India, but throughout the world, whether it is America or whether it is Turkey or whether it is Brazil, everywhere this thought becomes most relevant. And that's why even in Pakistan, that girl who got Nobel Prize, she fought, the way she fought, the way she stood, fearlessness. That's exactly what Gandhi talked about. And it is these are the people who are inspired by those thoughts. These are the people who are inspired. Mandela or Martin Luther King and every one of them. And it is not just science, we say in the name of technology, we go on adding everything. He was once taken to Bangalore just before he died. He was assassinated on January 30th. But this was in December 30th, say 47. He had been to Bangalore Institute of Science. And there scientists were telling him, in 25 years we will be doing this, in 50 years we will be doing this. Gandhi heard everything and asked the scientist, please tell me, would human being be benefited by doing all these things? Then I am happy. That was individual human happiness. That was the core of his thought. And as long as that individual is sacrificed in the name of nation, then we march towards different ideology.
So
And
Kanak
that is
Jain,
why-
Kanak Jain, I think, has a question.
Yeah.
So we can Kanak Jain, and then after that, Arun Singh. If both of you can ask your questions,
Yeah, please.
then Professor Ganachari will answer them. So Kanak Jain first.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Kanak Jain,
Hello.
Arun Singh. Kanak Jain.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Ha.
So actually, I would want to know that as we know that Mahatma Gandhi was a staunch supporter of non-violence. So,
Yes.
sir, why did he agree to help the Britishers during the World War II by sending the Indian Army?
No.
And then Arun Singh. Arun Singh, if you can also ask, then Professor Ganachari will handle both.
Yeah.
Arun Singh.
Yes, sir. Sir, you spoke beautifully about Mahatma Gandhi's ideology. If you could just shed some more light on his sense of personal spiritualism and his concept of Ram Rajya. Even Father Arun referred to it. So if you could
Yeah.
elaborate on it a little, uh,
Yeah.
that will be extremely enlightening. Thank you. Thank you for the
Yeah.
lecture, sir.
Thank you, Professor Ganachari.
My pleasure. My pleasure. See, Gandhi supported the British in the First World War. He rather called himself, he was himself a recruiting agent, in the hope that when the British had given promises that once the war was over, the suspension of all civil rights would be restored, and Indians would get many more say benefits once the war was over. But it proved rollout satyagraha had to be done, because they not only rollouts defense say ordinances, they were enacted into laws. He realized the mistake of supporting, how the British took his word, got his support. He called it, that is exactly why he said my experiment should be, he was evolving. And then never, the first thing in the Second World War, then when in the Second World War, the British government said India is at war, he said all 11 Congress ministries will resign. We are not supporting war. No. And that's where he said, whether you be in war or not, you are an evil state and you have to quit India. So Gandhi always committed mistake and he admitted it. He never said anything. He did not say, he was not a person with magic wand. He committed mistakes, but he never repeated them. And secondly, the concept of what Professor Arun said, Ramraj. Ramraj is an ideal. Ramraj is an ideal. He said, this is what we aspire for. And Gita is my ready reckoner, he said. Gita teaches me, he is a ready reckoner. It is not that he said what Gita teaches me is anasakti yoga, to be detached from the world and from the material world, and to be, they say, anasakti yoga, he wrote on that. And he explains in the concept of Ramrajya, it is not just your ideals are to be the ideals, but ideals keep changing once you achieve them. It is they keep changing. It's like a widening horizon. Now, what is there for Ram was an ideal. Ram was an ideal. Ram was not. It is therefore, even in Indian tradition, it is said, by placing your hand on Gita, because Mahabharata is true to life. Ram is not true. Ramayana is not true to life. And he was the influence thing that influenced him was Tulsidas Ramayana. And that is where he said, we aspire for those ideals. And these ideals will change. What will bring, we say, where as long as if it does not serve the humanity, any idea, any institution or anything which does not serve serve the humanity, you should cast them into dustbin. The ideals, no matter your antiquity, no matter your tradition, and therefore he was against that kind of tradition, dogmatism. He never followed those things. He had his discussions in Wycombe with the Brahmins. He said, no, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this. He saw God in the poor man, the Daridra Narayan. You are like Vivekananda, Daridra Narayan. But he did not say that it is only in temple that God exists. No, not at all. Ram is an ideal, and that Ram exists in the heart. And we should aspire for those ideals throughout life. And our heart is like Kurukshetra. We are constantly at war with good and evil. Ramayana is also fight between good and evil. Like Kauravas and Pandavas, he said, my question was only whether Kauravas, when you say Pandavas, did truth win? That was his question. Yeah.
So there's a chat question there, Professor Ganachari, for you. Could Mahatma Gandhi save Bhagat Singh from the death sentence?
See, I was expecting this question, mind you. He met Bhagat Singh. To be frank, he met him before. And before that, he also met the Mirror conspiracy case prisoners. He had dialogue with them, discourse with them. And then the government had given him a promise saying that they would set prisoners free. He felt that Bhagat Singh would be treated as a political prisoner. But they did not treat Bhagat Singh as a So when he met, Bhagat Singh did not do it by his revolutionary activity by asking him. He did not support him. So why should he save him? But even after meeting him, he said, he used the words, whether in Amritsar massacre, Dyer is not just a human being. It is a human tendency. We must fight against the tendency, not you can kill one Dyer. You can kill one Dyer. But you cannot kill that tendency. We are fighting against that tendency. And therefore, he called Bhagat Singh after his meeting as a great patriot with misplaced national patriotism, he said. And therefore, why should we expect him to save? In the Irwin talks, what was promised was political prisoner, but they did not treat him political prisoner. In fact, it was exact execution was carried in a very just way. So people, even in Chauri Chaura, in Chauri Chaura, 11 police officers, including the Inspector Bishwas, were burnt alive. People thought that he would support this. No, he condemned violence. He knew what the Britishers were doing. He condemned violence. He condemned all kinds of violence, whether it is British who committed or Indians who would commit. For him, and then he did say that your actions have brought these things. Because he knew that any support of this kind of support, even morally supporting them, would British government treated the way Tilak was treated, so that is how his strategy was always condemn violence, that not be support of violence, whether by whomsoever, whether it is by Indian people or by European state, with the evil state. It is evil. You can kill a person, but you cannot kill the tendency. And therefore, what we have to fight is to fight against the tendency. Because Dyer was a tendency. One Dyer may be killed. So the tendency has to be fought. And therefore, blaming him for not saving Bhagat Singh, you see, he was not here. Why should we should blame him for doing this? Their thought, and that is exactly what is important. At a time when people had not even seen a gun in hand, picture of gun, such ignorant, poor people, to will them into a moral force and fight the terror of colonial law and colonial state was, it is easy to kill a human being, he said. It is difficult to meet eye-to-eye contact and tell the oppressor. That is exactly why he said oppression exists. Exploitation takes place as long as exploiters and exploited cooperate with each other. You cannot cooperate. Because the British were expecting him to support these people. How could he support? Right from the beginning, he has condemned violence. How could he support violence? Just because it is committed by some people? No. That's why he said it is misplaced patriotism. And therefore, he felt that this kind of revolutionary activity is more of a romanticism. That will not bring change. That will not solve the problem of the poor, all masses. And few individuals will die. So what we have to come together and fight against the state. So why one should expect? And then the British would have pounced upon him, saying that he has undermined his own principles of non-violence. So we, in hindsight, talking about him, that he did not support. He did talk about to Lord Irwin in 1931. Before that, he had met him. I can give you the date he has met him. But they said they would free political prisoners. And it was under the impression of the entire Congress that political prisoners included Bhagat Singh. But that was not so. And then it would be wrong to expect him to support. He was fighting against all this. And even once we got independence, where was he when we got independence? He was in Naukhali and Tipera, where whole country was burning there. And Mountbatten called him one-man army. Single-handedly, he was controlling violence in Naukhali and Tipera in East Bengal. So his concern was not just getting independence. One should stop violence in the name of religion, in the name of anything. That is exactly what he stood for. And maybe Tolstoy, one who wrote on Sermon on the Mount, so Tolstoy also criticized, the church wars, crusades and everything is in the name of religion. But he said, so theology is different. Those kind of what the later followers did is different. So he talked about the pristine principles that Christ talked about. That humanness, that suffering, that working for exploited, suffering, love, compassion. And that is why he was so impressed with even Christ, so impressed with Buddha, so impressed with those saints.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Ganachari. Any last question before we wind up?
Please, sir.
Mitali Naik, please put on your mic.
Yes. So I was listening about Gandhiji, and it was really nice to know. And my question is actually a follow-up on the answer to Bhagat Singh's question.
Yes.
That since Gandhiji has the ideology of non-violence, and we know that Bhagat Singh, as you said, has taken an act of violence. However, at the same time, Britishers are known for the atrocities in India. They have done greater violence than that. And we are choosing non-violence and forgiving. So non-violence is towards Britishers, but why not towards our own Bhagat Singh? So if non-violence is towards one person or one group of people, then why not towards others? Because both have committed violence, and our response should be non-violence towards both. Then why if only one?
Yeah, we were fighting against the colonial state, non-violent colonial state, and it is the violent colonial state who hanged Bhagat Singh, not Gandhi.
Yes, yes.
Who is he to, how can, do you expect him that he was the administrator, British administrator, to stop?
No.
So who
Can,
should stop it? Who should
yeah,
stop
yeah.
it? It
Can
is
I just
British
make a
administration who should stop it.
Yeah, I was not asking him to be stopping it, just that him
No,
suggest.
why should he support it?
Yeah, not
He
supporting.
did not support. He did not say it was non-patriotic. He said it was patriotic. He was patriotic, but it is a misplaced patriotism because you are taking up a different type of road to achieve the things. His road was this. He wanted to bring all this non-violently, all poor, ignorant, rusty, and every people together. But why should he be expected to support non-violent things?
Because
Violent things. Why should he support it?
yeah, so if he's not
Bhagat Singh was hanged by colonial state. Bhagat Singh was hanged by colonial state. He never supported them. British saying that what you did was right. Not at all. He said he is a patriotic person. He has done it. He has taken a different type of road. I don't go with that road. It is easy to hold a gun and shoot somebody. It is difficult to look into the eyes of the exploiter and tell him you are doing wrong. I'm ready to suffer for it. He suffered. He went all privations. He was for suffering.
Thank you, Professor Ganachari. I think you have really, underscored what you're saying in terms of violence. I'm going to give the last question to Professor Arun Singh. The last question.
Please.
Sir, it's not a question. It was just a suggestion to my student friends here that sir made a very nice point, and I will recommend to all of you to at least read Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography and some writings of Bhagat Singh. And then a lot of your questions will be solved automatically when you will understand the difference in their ideology. So please do that and go beyond the WhatsApp forwards and the kind of information which is on the internet. So you will understand what sir is explaining.
I support Professor Arun Singh. His autobiography, very few people have had the courage to write so simple and so honestly an autobiography like Gandhi. All his mistakes, all his things, he has written himself. He has hidden nothing. He has hidden nothing. And one should read that autobiography. And I tell you, it is not just, I always feel that every time I read, I learn something more from what he did. Because one should get into the mind of the person, because it is not just supporting an ideology. You say it is the way that he thought one should fight. That is exactly why he called it experiments with truth, and went on going. We say this one, truth is multidimensional. Truth is multidimensional. You say there is no absolute truths, mind you. There is only one absolute truth in this life: death. Ram Nam Satya. All other is relative truth. So how you see that?
Thank you, Professor Ganachari, for this wonderful, explanation. And if I'm be allowed to, underline one thing, your last sentence, please read Gandhi's book and learn, because I keep reading it and I keep learning new things. That's, the mark of a true scholar, that you don't stop learning, that you're constantly somebody who wants to learn more. And I think that's something, that we can all take away. One, the entire thing that you presented about Gandhi, but also your scholarship and your idea of scholarship, that one is constantly learning and one is constantly a student. Thank you. I hand this thing back to the compare. Sanjana. We can't hear you, Sanjana. Sanjana, we can't hear you.
Unmute. Ask her to unmute.
Something must be wrong with your mic.
Audible, sir?
Yeah.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yes. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful insights. This was indeed an enlightening discussion. Now I would request Radha ma'am, Dr. Radha Kumar, Professor, AIC Department, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. She's also the DIRS faculty in charge to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much, Sanjana. And this is absolutely a proud privilege and my complete honor to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Father Keith, who's the director of DRS and also the rector of our college. To you, sir, for such a brilliant lecture. When I was listening to you, your entire lecture was supported by all kinds of historical facts. And also you brought out so many other facts that we were really not aware of. So your lecture is definitely a trigger for all our students and members who are attending this particular session to act as a spandana to go on for further research. And in your lecture, which is Mahatma Gandhi and his whole role in the space of human emancipation, you have touched on all aspects. I mean, in this very short time, for a scholar like you to do this kind of justice, sir, it's completely our honor and it's our privilege. Thank you so much, sir. And also, it's my proud privilege to thank our own dear Father Arun. Thank you so much, Father, for moderating this session and taking time out from your very busy schedule. And also for summarizing this entire session so beautifully. You so beautifully brought out so many points that for all of us who are listening, it was almost like a little summary of what Sir really spoke about. Thank you so much, Father, and also for handling the very tough questions so beautifully. Thank you so much, Father, and also the time management, which is again, especially when you are having a scholar like Professor Ganachari, to actually maintain time, to make the tala and laya is very difficult. Thank you so much, Father, for handling that. I would also like to thank our principal, Dr. Shinde, for always supporting all our DRS activities. And thank you so much, sir, for your support even for this particular lecture. And how can I not thank all the participants, my colleagues who are attending the session, and also our students, not only from Xavier's, but also from other colleges. Thank you so much, all of you. And please do keep supporting our DIRS activities. We had Kashvi Desai, our core team student member, who spoke about the forthcoming symposium that we are having, and the topic and the theme is rejuvenation. Professor Ganachari, sir, I would personally like to invite you for this particular session, and we will send you all the details. We will be totally honored with your august presence for our symposium, which is happening on the 21st of Feb. And also a big thanks to our core team, DRS. Students, you are absolutely awesome and actually coordinating this entire lecture right from the registrations to even making the poster and the publicity. Thank you, student team. And also to actually go back to this entire point where in the DRS, we take up a lot of these topics, a lot of these discussions to further, as Father Arun very rightly said, to further research and to set a thought process moving. So thank you all of you for joining in this particular session and hope to continue this Vako Vakya in various dimensions. Shubha Ratri, Dhanyavad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Core team, if you can just wait, we can stop recording. Core team DRS, if you can be.